Hi, this is John Ondo for Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. And before we get into today's episode, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. We're back after being gone for over 4.5 years. And I hope you get a chance to listen to episode 77, where we explain why we were gone for so long and that we're back for at least 3 more episodes. Angel and I are big supporters of entrepreneurship, and we love small businesses and faith-based businesses. And we just want to encourage you through our podcast each week. What's going to determine if we continue with more episodes will be the response. Subscribe to us on your platform. Send us an email at john@ondomedia.com. That would help us know you're listening and you want more episodes. So thank you so much, and let's get into today's episode. I recently had a friend of mine that doesn't have the greatest website, and I was sending it to a friend in California. I said, this guy's really great. And he makes, are you sure the website's not that good? And I had to explain, it's like, no, his product is awesome. His website is not. Yeah. You don't want that conversation.
This is the small business podcast that is sweeter than all the rest. Marketing, media, and cupcakes.
Hello, I'm John, and along with me is my wife, Angel.
Hi there.
And together, Angel has a custom cupcake side gig she does here at home, and she does a full-time thing with a Fortune 500 company in customer service, so she does a lot of stuff.
Busy.
And then on my side, I have a production company called Ondo Media, as well as a podcast company called Premier Podcast, which we're launching. And together, that kind of makes up why we call it Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes, because we like to talk about all these types of fun things. Mm-hmm. And today, we are going to answer questions about the internet and websites and such.
Fun.
Because I have asked a dear friend of mine, Jason Westbrook, to join us today on the show. Hi, Jason.
Hey, glad to be here.
Woo!
Jason and I both, when Ondo Media started 10 years ago, I primarily did websites because I don't know why, but it seemed like everybody would call and say, hi, John, can you do a video? I'm like, yeah, where's your website? And we're like, well, we don't have one. Or it was like HTML. And I ended up building a lot of websites in WordPress for about 5 years till I finally wanted to take my life. And I wanted to get out of it. Jason, though, focused just on the websites, and he's doing amazing work and helping clients in a consultant role, and his business has grown. So we're going to ask him a lot of these questions that I even have now, even though I consider myself a little bit of a web intermediate expert. But we want to talk about that because websites are just constantly changing. It's one of the reasons I stopped doing them, because they're just constantly changing, and I couldn't keep up with it. So Jason's going to fill us in, and by the end of the show, we'll know everything that we need to know.
Fabulous.
Before we get to that, here's an important thing. And Jason, you've got kids. Tell us about your family real quick.
Yeah, I've got 3 boys. Been married 10 years. 3 boys, 8, 5, and 2. So it's a busy house, and I've got some gray hair. And my sides of my head, top of my head, and on my beard.
And it's a hungry house because you've got boys.
Yeah, cereal's all. First question in the morning, eat and cereal for my 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm. So something Angel does is this jam. Is it a jam or is it a jelly?
It's a jam.
Is there a difference?
There's a difference.
What's the difference?
Jam has fruit, whereas jelly
doesn't have fruit?
does not.
I didn't know that.
Well, I could be completely inaccurate, but they're definitely different consistencies as well.
So in our refrigerator right now, you would find this little home jar of homemade jam.
Yes.
That you make, and see, my mom, she would do strawberry jams and grapes and stuff like that, and it was a process where the entire house turned into a steam room. There's boiling and there's things happening.
I don't have time for that.
And then they would be down in the storage area where we'd have the little, the masking tape on top with the dates on it. Okay, is this bringing back memories?
Very.
So that's when you say you make jam.
Yes.
That's where I go to. But your jam, I don't even know. It's like next thing you know, one day, it's like, I got to make jam. And then like 10 minutes later, there's a jar of this stuff.
Yes.
So what is this and how does this work?
So I think my mother-in-law, and she gave me this recipe years ago. And when I said, Jane, this stuff is fabulous. How do you make this? She's like, it's just freezer jam. I said, what do you mean by that? She goes, oh, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to sterilize the things and all that good stuff. You just make it. So basically, all you're going to do is get yourself a box of pectin, so either Sure Gel or the Kroger Grind or whoever makes it, and it has the instructions. But it's literally 2 cups of chopped strawberries, and don't let anybody freak out, 4 cups of sugar, and you put it's a lot. That's why it's so good. And you mix those 2 together and let it sit for 10 minutes. While it's sitting, you take the pectin that's in a nice little pouch.
Pectin's like
Pectin is thithner.
I gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can get the same result if you just cook the fruit on the stove with sugar and let it cook and cook and cook and cook and cook, and it will develop its own pectin and thicken.
So the pectin's a shortcut, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you put that with some water and you get that heated up and you boil it for all of 1 minute. And then once your fruit has sat with the sugar, because it's trying to dissolve, you put it all together, stir it for 3 minutes, and then you literally section it off into containers, screw the top on, and let it sit on the counter for 24 hours, and then eat it or freeze it.
Oh, you say what's that? So what was the freezer thing? But it's just,
it's literally you can eat it right then, or you just put it in the freezer. And so all of my stuff is clean, of course, but I don't boil. I don't have to worry about the lids popping and all that other stuff.
I remember those things.
Because you cooked. It's not a cooked product, so you don't have to worry about it.
So
bacteria and things of that nature.
Write those things down. We'll put it in the link on this show.
Oh, for sure.
I've been bad on not putting some of your little tips here on the on the podcast page, but that's a good one, because I'll tell you this: I have who's 13 today, my Julia. She eats that stuff.
She'll eat a half a jar at dinner.
So it's we
so
can
3
attest.
cups of sugar.
It's
2.5 cups of sugar.
And what I love about this stuff is this is what I put in my cupcakes. So when you order strawberry cupcakes or a strawberry cake from me, you don't get you get my homemade jam that goes in it, and then if you ask for a filling, like the cake I was working on today, then you also get my homemade jam as the filling. So no Smuckers or anything else. You get that. So that's another reason why I make it quite often.
That works. Well, you can follow us on Instagram on Marketing Media and Cupcakes, but you'll also find the links to Angel's Instagram, where she posts all the pictures of her just insane creations. And the thing that both Jason and I do is we work in digital media, which is not nearly as tasty as the work she does. The reason I wanted Jason on is for multiple reasons, because he's just a great guy and he's got a business and he's an entrepreneur like we all are. But you work in the web design world and you help a lot of small businesses. Tell me, since I'm assuming most of the folks that listen to us are small business owners as well, what's the common misconception that you run into with folks that you're doing initial sit down and they say, hey, I need to have a website, or they have a website and it's not working right, or they say it's not worth it. Our website, the website, somebody gave me a quote for $5,000 and it's just, we can't make that work. What's some of the things you run into, I guess, in a first contact situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things we've, just over the 8 years, running the Mission Group, name of our business, but since running the Mission Group now for about 8 years, so what we run in is when we do a lot of consulting, we run in and, people are like, hey, I want to get on the top page of this keyword.
Google, yep.
And I want to do it for $100. And it's like, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's like expecting to have a really nice car, but your budget's, not as large. It's a used car budget.
You want to compete with Ferrari with a $100 car. There are people out there, if you're trying to get the, we both have real estate friends, and, you're in a really tough market with all the different Realtor.com and all the big RE/MAX sites and all those things. They're spending tens and thousands of dollars a month for SEO and so forth. And so, $100 isn't going to get you to that level. Let me ask you some questions, Jason, because I know a lot of folks are listening, and I think our audience is a little savvy to websites, but probably like a lot of us, not, we're making the widgets and doing the stuff, and then we pick up some things down there. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of weird information out there. So let me ask you a few things, because one of the things I know when I was doing websites and I was doing WordPress, which is a very popular platform, it's still a great platform, but I know it used to be SEO, search engine optimization, so you want to get your website at the top of the list. It used to be, I have to have cupcakes 50,000 times on my website and I need 60 pages. Is that still true?
Yes and no. I wanted to, before we talk about that, I want to say one thing too. There's two really kind of camps with web people that want an online presence. There's what I would call maybe the hobbyist, the person that it's not their main source of income, and then you have somebody that it is their main source of income. So their goal is a little bit different. Typically, the one, that's a hobbyist is looking more for just something that looks good, it's pretty, it grab somebody's attention.
It's a brochure, basically.
But the professional person, their goal is really lead generation. It's we have this online presence, but we need to be making money off of it. So they're kind of two different camps. So there's kind of that. But yeah, so when it comes to like search engine optimization, algorithms have changed over the years. And so, when the internet first started, the algorithms were different than they are now. So people would put tons of keywords because that's how Google and Bing and Yahoo and these different providers, how they index sites and how they delivered search results to people looking, this is valuable content, right? But now you're seeing companies like Dropbox, Facebook, other places where their SEO, their web page, you go to it, it's a one pager, right? So how does a one pager rank? How does this and that, and so it's evolved over time. So, Google doesn't really publish the algorithm, but what we know is that, SEO is important, but we don't need to build a humongous site. We need to build a very intentional site. So people are going to find value in what they see. When we did build these giant sites, we built an online community as a whole of a bunch of noise.
Yeah.
It was just like, let's just throw a bunch of information out there for people to find. And it was just noisy. And it's like, now it's become where it's hard to cut through the noise because there's so much stuff out there.
Yeah.
So how do you break through that? And to me, it's like taking a step back and taking a very caring approach to your own story. How does my story, or how does the story of my audience, how can I relate to them? How can I cut through the noise and simplify it down in a very organized and clear way? Because at the end of the day, the clearest brand will always win, and a confused buyer will always say no.
So since you brought up Facebook, and you brought up the hobbyist, because that's basically kind of what I am. What's the difference between having, I guess, why would I want a website, which I have, and not just do Facebook? Or what is the benefit, of doing a website?
Because a lot of
versus
small
just Facebook?
businesses do use Facebook kind of as their homepage.
I will find that a lot where I'm Googling, I'm looking for something, and I'll go, let's just say, for example, a restaurant. And I go and like it says click website, and it literally is not a website. It takes me to a Facebook page.
So I'd say this. One, you always want to be in control of your own brand. You never want to put all your eggs in a basket like on just in Facebook, because what if they shut down?
Sure.
What if you're, you want to you want to own your own brand, and Facebook is complementary to your brand, not that it is your brand. So when you use Facebook, you're essentially selling their platform, right? And not selling yourself. And this, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would say definitely have a website. But at the end of the day, if that website is literally a one pager with a photo gallery and an easy, call to action and a form to fill out, that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be this extensive site. It just needs to be a very intentional site. And by the way, that landing page really is a type of a funnel, right? Because if you build your story right on your page, you make the end user who's purchasing your cupcakes, you're making them the hero of the story. How this amazing cake that they're going to get, they're going to be the life of the party. Everybody's going to be happy. The kids are going to be like, wow, look what mom got for us. They're the hero of the story. It's not that we made this amazing cake for them. It's that we're empowering that parent or whoever to be in an amazing position during that party or get together.
I like that.
See, that's in there.
very cool.
We talked about that a few episodes back, and it with in relationships to video testimonies, because I'm just a big believer testimonies sell. When you have a story, and what Jason's saying is very accurate, because as I produce videos, we want to have a testimonial saying what he's just saying. You're the hero. This is great. But your website has to say that too. Tell me a little bit about, and I know going back in the SEO game, and I know I'm just going from my own clients that I've worked with and still work with. They care so much about this SEO, and I've known people who've gone into these weird website gimmicks that link to other things, and I know there's inbound, outbound links that Google, I guess, likes, but to me, I'm always, like you, focused on the story, and I'll see some of these websites that are just garbage. We go to your page, we find it's number one, but it sucks. That doesn't translate into a sale. How do you feel about those kind of gimmicks?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about SEO and ads, and at the end of the day, if you are a hobbyist and you're trying to earn money, or you're a professional person and you're trying to earn money, at the end of the day, it really comes down to lead generation, right? How many people will come and visit that will end up turning into a client that will pay you and become a return guest? I mean, ultimately, that's what we want. We want a client. We want to turn a visitor into a client. So I've always kind of thought, my personal opinion is I don't value SEO as much as I value ads. And here's why.
Okay.
Search engine optimization is important. However, there's no guarantee with search engine optimization. You can be investing $500 a month in SEO, $1,000 a month, or whatever those thousands of dollars are for somebody to get you ranked in certain keywords, and it could take you a long time. It could take you 6 months, 12 months to get to that position you want to be. And you're not guaranteed to be at that position because the person who has the most amount of money is going to win the SEO game.
If you go on Google, the top 3 or 4, I'm sure Bing and Yahoo the same, the first 3 or 4, or you see has ad beside it. So who cares about the SEO? They just bought that position from
Correct.
you.
So the benefit of the ads, though, is it lets you bypass the line. You get the front of the line, and you get in front of your audience tomorrow.
It's like
right. So if I spend $500 a month in ads, I can be in front of my audience tomorrow, as opposed to waiting for a few months and seeing if hopefully it works.
It's like that Turbo Pass or whatever they have at amusement parks that you get to go to the front of the line.
And I honestly had no idea that that's what that was, because I do a lot of searching for random things.
Yep.
And I've seen it says ad in the thing. And I'm like, oh, I had no clue that was somebody paying to be there.
Did you ever click it?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because again, I'm like, sometimes I don't realize it. Then other times I was like, oh, well, I don't care. I just wanted to get to wherever I was heading. So I guess what I'm more curious about, because I've heard the term, I use funnels in my kitchen, but that's usually to get product from, one thing into a smaller thing.
Funnel cakes.
But help me.
Exactly.
Oh, funnel cakes are delicious.
Yeah. If you listen to any other podcast talking about social media examiner, a lot of these guys that I listen to, it is funnel. I mean, if you have a drinking game with funnel, you'll be loaded in a couple of minutes because it's funnel.
But I just want to know what it is.
Tell us about the funnel.
It's a great thing. And in fact, if they want the audiences listening, they can go, before we talk about this, if they go to themission.group, www.themission.group, what my website actually is a funnel. It's not actually a website. So it's a difference of terminology. So here's a few things. Everybody has a funnel. A funnel is a series of steps through a journey of taking your audience from point A to point B. So typically, in your case, Angel, it's, they're learning more about you. They heard about your cupcakes. They're looking at the pictures. They're going to, their next step is to fill out some kind of form or contact you. Then you contact them, you do the sale, and then you make the purchase, you make the cake and then they pick it up. So you have a funnel already in place. We just don't think of it that way. So everybody already has a funnel.
Or they should.
Yeah, or they should. But when you're really trying to do lead generation online, the funnel allows you to replicate yourself as the salesperson. So nobody's going to be able to sell your cupcakes in your business better than you.
Mm-hmm.
You're the best salesperson. No one's going to be able to sell, strategy and consulting from the Mission Group than Jason. Jason's the best.
Mm-hmm.
So what we can do, though, is we can create a funnel that lets us sell 24/7, 365 and position us to always be in front of them and selling to them so they get that information quickly. So, that's kind of just the basics of what a funnel is. So there's really kind of 3 main steps for a funnel. Now there's all kinds of different funnels. These days, the ones I like in your case, since you're providing a service, is really, a 1 or a 2-step funnel. So it would be something like you run an ad through Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You could spend $100 a month, $50 a month. You can set the limit to your budget however you want. You're sending some traffic there. To your landing page. Your landing page is really an opt-in page. The opt-in page is they have to give up their email address to get something specific, like 15 tips on buying the perfect cake for your kids, or how to make how to choose the right person to make the cake for your special moment. So you give away some type of a free item, so they're willing to give up their email address. So it has to be a good enough free guide, checklist item that they're going to get
a good trade
to give up their email address. And then it takes them over to basically a sales page. The sales page can be long form or short form. It can be a video. It can be, just text on a page, but you're essentially now taking them into the story, right? The story is how they're the hero's story, how, how they're going to position themselves to be the hero, and they're so excited because they made such a big difference in their kid's special event or whoever it is, or whatever their situation is. And then here's the steps you got to do to, make that happen. You got to contact, the cupcake company and sign up and get involved. So the funnel is actually a really simple thing. But what I found is most people have a website and they don't have a trusted journey of nurturing and educating the person that's coming through. So they have a very low conversion. Whereas if you can tell the story, you can really just nurture and educate that person that's interested in your product or service, you have a much higher percentage of conversion. So if they were to go to my website right now, what they would see is there is no navigation. The only navigation is to start a conversation. They see my logo on the top left, on the top right, it's a button. It says start a conversation. If they want to get, so I tell a story about my customer, who they are, how we can change their life, whatever, how they can be the hero of the story. The only other option that they have is at the end, towards the footer of just before the footer of the website, I have a place where they can self-evaluate over a video that I've done. They can self-evaluate their own brand and still book a time to contact us so we can help them work through that. So my website is a funnel. So any other links, like a billing update or support or anything like that, that's all in the footer as links. Because what I found was people weren't looking around for a bunch of stuff. All they wanted was to get what they wanted as quickly as possible. So that landing page really became a simple funnel.
So let's take that a step further, because I know the way our culture is moved. Like when I started in 2008 with WordPress, smartphones were just getting going, and it was a nightmare. And then later, responsive formats came out, which meant the website would work for both a cell phone and for a desktop. There was a time when you had to build two different websites, and one would know if it was mobile. It was a nightmare. But then you mentioned the single page, which I really love. It's simple, it's clean, you're flipping through. So because obviously the first contact now is on the cell phone, and typically if people want to dig in more, maybe they'll go back and look on the website. Is that still true?
Well, we see the trends now that I think there's more mobile users than desktop users. So it's already shifted that way, right? So we really need to design everything to be mobile first to begin with.
Right.
And then desktop, reverse back to desktop. Whereas before it would be like, we're going to build desktop like you mentioned, and then we'll add in this mobile component. Mm-hmm. The cool thing is today, if they're using WordPress or any, main website builder out there on the market, they're automatically responsive. So they typically have those already dialed in as you're designing it, and it's pretty cool. And that should have been like that all along, right? But we just didn't have mobile devices.
Well, we're talking with Jason Westbrook with the Mission Group, and he is a consultant with websites, builds them, and I highly recommend them. So let me ask you this next question. So you get your website, you've got a little bit of a funnel, whether it's a big funnel or a small funnel. It was always a big strategy in the companies I work for, is if we got to capture email addresses. Mm-hmm. And I understand that, but I'm also becoming the old grumpy guy, because I think a lot of people are just like, I don't even want to give you my email address. I don't want the spam. I don't want the security risks that you're going to sell my list off to somebody else.
Email addresses are important, because it's not also, the email address isn't always meant to cause interruption in life. Sometimes it's really, if they're doing it the right way, like how I would do it, you would do it, or Angel would do it, it'd really be more about nurturing and educating your audience to give them as much value as possible. Like, how can I help them even though I'm not with them? How can I hang out with them for the next 3 days over a coffee conversation and give them some really high value information, right? And I think at the end of the day, people know when it's spammy and when it's not. Yeah. They just know, so I want to be the person that's really so engaging that they're like, I really want to subscribe to his email list so I can get a lot of high value content.
And I think the value you mentioned before is probably better. It's like, if you're going to sign up for the email, that I'm going to get maybe a video tip. Sign up for our, newsletter is kind of, I hate to say old fashioned, but we'll send you a free PDF every month with a tip on it, or you'll see a video or something like that. I'm assuming that's a better, you're just not signing up and not knowing what you're going to get.
Again, our goal is to cut through the noise. The marketplace is noisy, so we want a really simple website. And by the way, one of the things I was going to say a couple questions back was, we want to be simple because a confused buyer will always say no.
Right.
And most people are selling, and very few people are telling a story. And there's a big difference. Selling is a transaction. A story is an experience. It's an audience. It's helping people and valuing that person more so than the dollar bill.
That's great. Well, there's a lot more we need to get into, so I want to get you back in here in a couple of weeks, and let's
Sure.
discuss maybe some things like Facebook ads and LinkedIn and
Yep.
even some other funnel strategies, because and this stuff just changes. And but before we go, just real quickly, run down all your info, how people can get a hold of you and the Mission Group.
Yeah, so they can find us online at www.themission.group. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. My sign is Jason Westbrook Consulting, and I'd be happy to encourage them and just invest them if they need it. And yeah, so that's how they can find me.
And I know I've used this illustration before, where if I said, hey, you get to have a free Super Bowl ad to reach 1 million people on Super Bowl Sunday, you wouldn't go out and spend $100 on an ad. You would go out and probably spend several tens of thousands of dollars. Yet, so many people do that with their website. It is exposed to millions of people, yet they do not invest in it. And I know it's hard. I know some people say, I don't see the results, but they are there. Your website is so critical, even if it's just affirming that somebody can say, oh, I've heard good things about you, but now I see the website and I see it's really legitimate. And I recently had a friend of mine that doesn't have the greatest website, and I was sending it to a friend in California. I said, this guy's really great. And he makes, are you sure the website's not that good? And I had to explain, it's like, no, his product is awesome. His website is not.
Yeah.
You don't want that conversation. So that's just one thing, and we're going to continue to help you with these tips. And again, if you want to get a hold of me, it's john@ondomedia.com, and we're happy to help you out, and we'll get some stuff about the jam on the website as well. And until then, we encourage you to continue living the dream.
Connect with John and Angel via Facebook and Instagram and let us know your thoughts. Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes is a production of Ondo Media.